I'm Vignesh. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Nephio AI. We are an AI company focused on building AI products and solutions for the telecom domain. And we have launched multiple different products in the telecom space. We have a very specific telecom specific LLM called TSLAM, which is again custom made for the telecom domain. And we also have certain products and solutions around it. And today on this particular recording, all that I'll be focusing on is talking about Nephio, where I'll be discussing about how AI is getting used and how AI is going to drive Nephio, and then how it is being utilized in the telecom space, how useful it is, and things like that. Right. So to start with, we all know that the space of network functions, virtual network function, is getting very mature day by day, and things have started maturing at a rapid pace in the last 2 to 3 years. Though virtual network functions are a thing which was there for the last 10, 15 years, but in the last 5 to 6 years, it has gone into a very rapid phase of adoption and development. But only one problem that we see with the network functions as such is, how do we manage the complexity and the deployment of network functions when it comes to the virtual side of it? How do you run it on a server? How do you ensure it is running properly? How do you ensure every configuration that is made or changed on each of those network functions is getting properly tracked, and is it getting properly monitored? So that is where every telecom provider now faces a huge issue because of the complexity involved in maintaining and monitoring all these network functions. And this is where Nephio plays a major role. Nephio takes care of handling all the deployments in a very dynamic way, where it considers everything as a Kubernetes node, like everything runs on a Kubernetes, and every network function runs on its own, and then you also get a closed loop automations and monitoring of all the network functions. Now, it's a very interesting project to be engaged with and to be part of, and I'm really happy to be talking about Nephio on this particular call. And there are multiple advantages of Nephio, which has got me really interested into working on this project. But few key things is, just to name a few, there is a problem which is called as this continuous updation or reconciliation. So what happens is, maybe people who have done network function deployment would know this. We would have deployed something onto the server, and some engineer could have changed some configurations onto the backend, or the network function which is running there. And this config change might not be reflected onto your orchestrator, and this creates a config drift between your orchestrator and what is on the actual deployment. So this is where Nephio kind of solution comes into play, and it takes care of continuously updating and reconciling the actual running instance configurations into the currently running instance on the orchestrator level, and it ensures that it is all matched, and the drift that is happening in the config level is also handled. And also, whenever there is a drift between what is expected and what is currently running, all the changes that is expected to be done to ensure the network functions are always operating at the ideal config parameters in the setting is also handled automatically with Nephio. Now, specifically coming into the AI side of it, Nephio has a lot of capabilities where you'll be able to do AI-driven automations and AI-driven network function deployment and closed-loop monitoring and all those different aspects with AI. One specific aspect that I see here is the natural language intent-driven provisioning, where we could assume that a service provisioning engineer or a network engineer who wants to provision a network function can just come to a console and say, I want to deploy this network function with these attributes. Now, with just that natural language intent, we will be able to use a model, which is an LLM, which has all the context of everything to do with Nephio and the network function. The moment it has that level of intelligence on it, then the model would be able to translate this particular engineer's request into all the required the CRDs and CRs for creating the templates and deploying that particular network functions on its own. Right. So that's an agentic way of deploying stuff with just a natural language intent, which is all possible with this AI-driven advancements and the generative AI space advancements which I have seen in the last 6 to 7 months. Right. And one key aspect that I would like to highlight here is the T-SLAM model that we have at Neto AI. It is already trained to handle all these different scenarios towards translating network intent or translating the user intent and converting that into the required network function templates and all the configuration templates which is required for the deployment side of it when it comes to the network function deployment as well. Now, Nephio doesn't just stop at deploying stuff alone. It also does one other thing which is very interesting and very important, which is it handles everything on Git. So every deployment that you do for a network function, as it is all handled within a GitHub repository with all version control that is being done there. What you could do as an operator to make the best use of this particular repository or particular Git thing is you can train a model with all the Git data, where once you put in or pull all the different thousands of different changes that you have done in Git history and load all the history onto the model and make this model to be very specific to understand everything to do with the Nephio's deployment or the network function deployment. Next time when you do a deployment, you can ask this model to be your judge or your centralized mediator to verify whether whatever config change that you're trying to do will it cause an impact or not. Right. So even before you go and deploy something, the moment you have this model in the middle, you can pass in the every intent that is that you are trying to achieve. Like let's say for an example, you want to deploy a network function with 30 instances of it. You can just go into this model and say, I'm trying to deploy 30 instances of this, and here's the template, and here's the configuration in the YAML files and everything. You can pass it on to this. Now, with this model having intelligence of seeing all the different changes that have happened all throughout the years in the GitHub with all your changes, it will be able to exactly tell you what it has seen in the past, where it could be able to suggest you that there is a probability that this particular change might get failed or this might result into a problem A, B, or C, because in the past something similar has occurred, and this is how people have solved it. So now instead of deploying 30 instances of that network function, maybe you can try deploying 10 instances of it, because 10 might not give you that level of complexity and problem, but 30 would definitely result into a problem. So you could do something of that sort, where the AI system might be able to help you towards how do you handle your deployments, how do you do the scenarios like what if analysis and simulation and emulation of your network function deployment even before you go ahead and deploy any of those network functions on your server, right? So this is all the different ways in which I see where the AI models and the generative AI space could interact or integrate into Nephio platform to handle or enhance the existing workflows, right? And the other aspect of Nephio, which is very interesting to me, is the the aspect of handling configuration as a data. So Nephio today has a lot of capabilities where instead of managing every configuration as a code, Nephio treats every configuration as a Kubernetes resource model, which is KRM, Kubernetes resource model stuff. Now, this resource model can also be fed into your AI models, any AI system that you're trying to build within your operator ecosystem. If you feed in all the configuration aspects onto that particular model, then the model will have the intelligence towards understanding every structure that is involved in this data, and it can also create or maintain the network states and also write new configurations based on the model intelligence itself. So you don't have to bring in a new developer or a new engineer to understand all this complexity of handling the configuration. Instead, this model with all the data being fed in, it will be able to tell you or guide you exactly how to do each stuff at different layers, right? So that's another way in which I see AI can help in understanding the configurations and also automating a lot of stuff within the deployment scenario of network functions, right? Yeah. So on at a high level, what I feel is Nephio is very important when it comes to handling or when it comes to the standardization of a multi-vendor telecom system, where all the network function would come under a Kubernetes API, and it is all going to be driven by a centralized orchestrator instead of people doing this stuff manually. And then everywhere where you see a human coming into play, there is a possibility of a human related error. We might miss out on certain configuration, we might miss out on certain aspects where Nephio kind of orchestrators or the platforms would enable you to do this in an automated way. With an addition of AI into the existing capabilities of Nephio, we'll be able to achieve greater heights with a lot of self-healing kind of activities. Or again, this what-if analysis in a kind of scenario that I said before, where you can use an AI model to do your evaluations and estimations of what-if analysis even before you go and deploy something onto your existing network. Right? So this is all I have in mind when it comes to how you could use AI and models like tslam into the Nephio environment for automating your network function deployment and network function management.